Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle with Southern Shell Creates, and Thomas is making himself known again. Every time Mama starts a new video, he has to have some loving. Does that remind you of a 2-year-old or something like that? Yeah, that would be Thomas. Okay, anyway, this project is a Pinterest inspired project. My middle daughter lives in Florida. They live down by St. Augustine, and they are beach people, her and her husband. And I get inspired when I see nautical items because their house is done in nautical decor. And so I seen a wreath on Pinterest that had some clothespins on it, and it had an anchor in the middle, and I believe I had seen one of those at Walmart, and I probably have one here in my stash somewhere. But it had, you know, your wire ring, it had clothespins, it had a wooden anchor, and it had fishnet. Now, this came from the Dollar Tree. I couldn't tell you when, but it did. This wire wreath ring, sorry about that noise, also came from the Dollar Tree. Wooden piece cutouts, die cutouts, Dollar Tree, whale, a seashell, and a seahorse. So it's not an anchor, but it is nautical. And clothespins. Now, Dollar Tree has clothespins, and Walmart has clothespins. So what I try to do is I'll go onto like Walmart.com, or if I'm looking for something, and I'll pull it up and see what the price is at Walmart as compared to the Dollar Tree to find out where the better buy is going to be. Now, obviously, the rings are a better buy at Dollar Tree. Walmart has these rings, but they're more than $2, where you can get this one for $1 at the Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree has clothespins, and I think it's a 30-pack for $1, where Walmart has a 50-pack for 97 cents. So I have a bunch of clothespins on hand because I do craft fairs, and I do alter clothespins for different projects and just have a blast with it. So, you know, I'm always looking for the better deal, and I know it's not much of a difference, but it is a difference. You know, you get more clothespins for a few pennies less. Woohoo! So the next thing I also have is, of course, my paints. Now, these don't come from the Dollar Tree, but Dollar Tree does have paints on hand. And so I pull out my colors that are more nautical themed to what they currently have in their home. And this is the agave and ivory, and of course a brush. Here's a sponge brush. Now, you can find cheap brushes at the Dollar Tree as well. I have a whole drawer full of sponge brushes, and I am going to go ahead and start this wreath for my daughter and her husband. So I'm glad that you're able to join me on this journey. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of find out how many clothespins I'm going to need to go around this wreath and get painted. So this may not be science, but it is crafting science. How about that? I'm going to take one of the sheets of clothespins, and I'm going to line it up right here with one of the lines of the wreath. And I'm going to roll it around. Let's see. I'm going to line it here, and I know it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times around with some left over. And there's 2 on each one of these cardboard pieces here. So 5 times around. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with some left over. And so there's some extra ones at this point here. So that's 2, 4, 6 straps of clothespins, 5 times around. This should give us some extras, but I do want to make sure I have a few more. So I am going to go ahead and do one more strap of clothespins here. And I'll probably just paint the extra in the ivory because I can use that for whatever I may need at a later date. So I'm going to go ahead and put a base coat of the ivory on my clothespins. This is a very simple process for painting. I'm just going to start with my ivory, and my ivory is going to go on the tops of each of these clothespins because that is going to be my background color. I do like to use all the paint I can possibly use, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with what's in my lid here. And I am not making sure everything's covered perfectly. This is going to be a rustic nautical theme, like it's been around for a little while. And so I'm just going to take my sponge and go over each of these strips of clothespins just like this. And once I get all these done, I'm going to set them aside and just let them dry as I go through each stack of clothespins. And I'm going to have some of that natural wood showing through. Not a big deal. That's what I want. And that will be the style. How easy was that? Oh my goodness. Let's set that aside. And I'm going to finish each of these stacks of clothespins with the ivory. So I'll see you guys in just a moment. Well, I went ahead and put a coat of the ivory on one seashell, one seahorse, and one whale. And I am going to give them just a light sanding because of the roughness. I don't know how I'm going to paint these yet because of course it just is going to depend on where I'm heading. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet with these and if I'm going to use one or all three. So I went ahead and just and I painted the front and the backs because these can be turned around and used in opposite directions. So I'm not sure, so I went ahead and did that. But I do want them to have a smoother surface, so I am just going to use some fine grit sandpaper and just sand it down a little bit so that it's not so rough and you can't see any extra lines in there. And I may just go over and just kind of do a light sand on a couple of these where you can see some of the roughness. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to do a dry brush technique over some of the clothespins and let those dry. But I will show you the dry brush technique that I do. So I am going to go ahead and take my light grit sandpaper and just go over this. And it's just enough to get that roughness off the top so that depending on what I want to do with these, I do have a pearlized paint that would be beautiful to go over this shell. I might use some glitter, I might use some sequins, I'm not sure. I might just use some distress painting techniques. I might put some words on them. There's lots of things going through my mind right now and I have lots of options. So I'm going to go ahead and give a quick sand and then I'll show you the dry brush technique on the clothespins. Just a minute. All right, so I've got a light sanding done on my wooden pieces here and a light sanding done on my clothespins. Now Thomas is being Thomas, and the last thing I need for Thomas to do is to get paint on him, so I'm trying to detour him. Thomas, no, come on, Bubby. Okay. So to do a dry brushing technique, it's very simple. I already had a smaller of the agave open in the chalk paint, the Waverly, so I'm just going to dab my brush, my dry paint brush, on the lid, and I'm going to just dab it here on my wax paper. I have wax paper over my workstation. I'm just going to dab that off, and then I'm just going to dry brush, drag that brush right on over the top of that. And I've already separated out the clothespins. I have 1.5 of these strips that I want to have this blue on. Thomas, I'm sorry, honey. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish doing this dry brush technique. Super simple. How easy is this? Dry brush, dab it off, and brush it over. Kind of like you're sweeping motion. A dry broom, so to say. Not difficult at all. And really super fast. And it dries so quick because you're using a dry brush and you're not loading that brush up with a ton of paint. So that is a wonderful way to go ahead and add a look of weatheredness to your projects. And you don't have to worry about it taking a long time to dry. I try not to let the brush strokes show on here. I want it to just look like it has had some color on there that is worn off over the years. And so here's the other half of one that I'm going to go ahead and dab the blue, the agave, on there. And knowing me, I'm probably pronouncing that paint color incorrectly, but as you get to know me, I'm just a simple crafting girl. My mind works on just my crafty side alone. I love to create, and sometimes it is definitely a therapy. As you get to know me, you'll know that there are several things that I deal with on a daily basis, and this is how I deal. I really get into creating because this is my outlet. Some people run and they get that runner's high, as they say, and they hit that, and it's just what keeps them going. And that's what crafting does to me. And my Bible study. I will get into the Word and get inspired, and the Lord has blessed me with an outlet. And you have an outlet as well. Now, whether it is crafting, whether it is sharing something different, we all have some way that we have a way out. He has always provided us a way out. I do not have to live a life of fear and sorrow, depression, whatever you happen to be dealing with. You don't have to. You have a way out, and it's through our Lord. So, find out, pray, get in the Word, find out where your outlet is. And you will be surprised at how well you can move forward in the world once you know what your outlet is and how you can apply that to your purpose. So now on some of these, I'm going to go ahead and do just a bit darker so that I have some that are very, very light, and then some that are definitely a darker tone. So I'm going to go ahead and do one row of these a little bit more. And I want to kind of do it just kind of in the center of those clothespins, and leave the outside as light colored as possible, because when you think about something that's worn on the edges, that's what will happen. It will be worn on the edges where people are touching the items. Now, if you're talking about like a boardwalk type of thing, well, that's going to be worn more in the center, and you're going to have darker colors on the edges. So right now, my thought process is this is something that has been handled, and so the edges are a little lighter. Now, I may come back in and do a little distressing and a little darkening around the edges so that it does look more like a boardwalk where it has worn off and been painted and worn off. But right now, this is where I'm heading with it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do another coat over another row of these. I like the way that looks. So, and then I'll leave one one much lighter. So, I'm going to finish these up, let them dry, and then I will start to assemble them around our ring. So stay tuned for that, and that will be our next step. Woohoo! I'm so excited. This is just thrilling for me to watch this come together. Something that's so simple, simple items that you can pick up rather inexpensive if you don't already have them on hand. So we're talking 1 pack, 2 packs of clothespins. So that is $2 there. A wreath form from the Dollar Tree, that's $1 there. So that's $3. And I remembered that the fishnet I got from the Dollar Tree was actually in the party paper section where you would decorate for a birthday party. Now I can't tell you how long ago that was, but that is the area that I did find it in. So you may still have the luck of finding that type of thing at the Dollar Tree. So those are the only ones I'm going to darken up a little bit, and I may come back and darken some a little bit more, but right now this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to let these dry, and then we will come back and kind of do some positioning on that wreath form. So I'll see you in a couple minutes, or for you, I'll see you now. All right, now I went ahead and took the clothespins that I have painted, dry brushed, gotten on there. Let me move that one out of the way. And I have taken them and just haphazardly hook them on to the wreath. And by doing that, I wanted to kind of make sure they were in ways that were going to just kind of offset each other. And you can see here that they are just on there, and then you can see a lot of the wire frame, and then you have your back side. So now what I'm going to do, now that I have just this part done, I'm going to go in and fill in some of the places that I can actually see the wire, and get them on there where the wire will be as covered as possible. That once I get this done, I'm going to come in with my hot glue gun, and I'm going to actually glue those clothespins closed or to each other. I will say that I have tried different hot glues, and I am definitely a Gorilla Glue hot glue girl. I get less strings that way, less glue strings that way. It holds better. This is my hot glue gun stand, which is a glass cutting board from the Dollar Tree and a glass votive, and another glass votive type that has a little rim on it. Years and years ago, I sold Princess House, and this was a miniature cupcake holder, miniature cake pan, and it has a lid. But I thought, man, that is perfect because it gives me a ridge. Can't even see that here. It gives me a ridge for my hot glue gun to actually sit on. You can see my finger under there. And then the votive on this side, I keep my glue sticks in. And it's hot glued on there with the Gorilla Glue. And I've not had any problems with this. It's wonderful, and because it is glass, it cleans up very well. Any glue drippings will just pop and pull right off of there. I'm gonna come up and put some hot glue along those edges. Open that clothespin, let it close, open the clothespin, let it close, and then a little bit of hot glue on the outside of that clothespin. And then let that cool. And then I'm gonna look at the next one and see where I'm at. And let's try to get all the clothespins that are actually facing this direction. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that one. Get some hot glue in there. Open it up. Get some hot glue in there. So this one right here, if we look, I'm gonna open this clothespin, I'm gonna open it up, place it in there, put some hot glue, close that clothespin right over the hot glue. And then once that cools, that clothespin should be there, because that hot glue, that Gorilla Glue, is a very strong hot glue stick. I love it. I am not a chemist. I don't know what the difference is, but I love it. It works wonderful. So I'm going to go around all of these and open and glue them closed, and then I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I just could not handle the haphazardness of that that wreath I made. So as for you can see it on the thumbnail, and I'll put some pictures in the end of this, on the end of this video, but I took off everything little bit at a time, and I had put it on there pretty well. You can see the back side of it, you know, just the net and so forth. But I did end up having 16 clothespins left over. In order to get off what I needed and shift them around, I did have to use my heat gun. And I used the heat gun. There's Thomas. Good morning, world. Thomas is back. I used my heat gun to heat the glue up as I moved, shifted things around. So I did remove a couple of the stickers. I did leave the one on the seahorse, and then I added some pearls onto the shell. So I left Mr. Whale alone. Of course, the net in the back. And I'm very pleased with the way it turned out now. So if you can see good old Thomas over here rolling around saying, good morning, it's time for lovin'. Anyway, I wanted to show the redo of this because I filmed the whole thing making it very haphazardly, and I just wasn't liking the way it looked. So I did make this for my daughter and son-in-law down in Florida, and now I get to pack it up and send it on to them. So thanks for joining me on this journey, and knowing that if you don't like something, it's okay. You can figure out a way to fix it. So thank you again. God bless, and have a happy Wednesday. Bye-bye.